Gamer 1745 here, streaming Strategic Command World War I, and I'm just checking out to see if everybody is, well, the different live services are getting the stream correctly. It looks so far. Look, move over here, and somebody just said hi over on YouTube. Hello, Elizabeth. How you doing? Just checking. Okay. Yeah, I know. Was first because he was here before the start. I don't know, is that cheating? Is that cheating? Hello, Arno, first everywhere. Okay. Well, let's make an episode here. As we continue on. Welcome, Armchair Generals. This is Gamer 1745 here, and I'm playing Strategic Command World War I for multiple reasons. But one of the reasons that is continuing to fascinate me is, I guess my head, for better or for worse, and sometimes it can be for worse, is multi-threaded, multitasking. And so when I'm here thinking about World War I, I'm thinking about streaming, interacting with the viewers, and that does help on what I'm sort of getting at here. I'm also, thinking about playing the game as the game. And I'm thinking about World War I'm sorry, I know I repeat myself often here, but I don't I don't know how many people, how many of the viewers, hey, about 70% of you have probably already clicked away, because I sort of see people click on, see what the video is, and then, within 30 seconds have gone. But the, 30 to 50% that watch big chunks of the video, hi, thank you. But even you, how many videos do you watch? How much do you see all of it? So I know I'm repeating myself. So yes, and that's the thing. So, but I think it's important. I've been thinking about the consequences of World War I. And I was starting to say this, and when I grew up, the war, when you said the war, everyone knew you were talking about World War II. Maybe slightly earlier on, they might have thought you were talking about the Vietnam War. But by the time I was sort of old enough to really, I'm not going to give away my exact age here, but in the 70s was, really getting into this would be the second half of the 70s. That's how far I go back into wargaming. And not that it would always be understood, but the war was World War II. In wargaming, there really wasn't, a Vietnam type war game culture. I'm not saying there was zero Vietnam war games. I'm just not aware of them right offhand back in the 70s. Different matter later on, but So, this, like I was saying, that's the war to study. So if we could take that guy out. That guy is too well dug in to attack. And so excuse me. So I focused a lot in on World War II, and World War II is immensely consequential. It definitely sets up the geopolitical situation going onward from it, which basically we've all lived under. Yeah, there's a few World War One or World War II vets still out there, but most of their lives they've lived under the post World War II world. No, 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 no. I'm saying if you were just, uh, there were definitely board games of World War One. I'm just saying if you just said the war without a qualifier, like the Civil War, at least in America, would be presumed to be the American Civil War. I also later on, the 80s and into the early 90s, started reading a lot of, English wargaming magazines. So they would specify, the American Civil War, the American War for Independence. So, like in America, if you would have said the Revolution, we all think of our War of Independence. So, yeah, but it wasn't a big. There's definitely, I think there was, if I'm picturing it right, something, one of the tabletop board games like the Great War or something. I never played any of them, but I'm pretty sure they existed. But I'm just saying if you're speaking shorthand, if you know what I mean. Cooler looking war, tanks, planes, absolutely, Jim Nuska. So, and from a technological and battle situation, it is still a much more interesting war. But as I'm contemplating this more, and I know people like Arno, who's around here almost always, Elizabeth, who's become a very frequent. They know where I'm going with this, but we really have the consequences of the First World War. I think are catastrophic. They're immense. They're more than, because I was just sort of, excuse me, if thinking of them from a cultural political standpoint, the setup for World War II, the prequel, if you will. you know I know there's a few youngsters that, when they were growing up as sort of former kids, the prequels, and when I say the prequels, I'm talking about Star Wars, of course. They were the new thing out, and that's maybe their first love, Star Wars. But I think from any real objective understanding, um, the original trilogy, it is just greatness of movie making. Um, and so, the prequels to me are just, they're somewhat retcon, somewhat going, in after the fact. But they're just to set up what is the meat of the story, um, which is, the original trilogy. And that's how I've looked at World War One. But now I'm coming to see it in a very different light. Again, like I say, from generals maneuvering around and doing very interesting things. Oh boy, World War II is much more interesting. You know, um, Other than, how much did generals, and this is a very interesting question, and I don't know how to quantify it, but how much did generals have an impact in World War One? Now we do have, like, this is the Ludendorff Offensive, and it was, Hindenburg and Ludendorff. Hindenburg is the overall commander. Ludendorff is sort of the organizer up of it all. Yeah, sure. They're like, hey, this train's going to deliver, ammunition here. This train's going to deliver food over here, and they're definitely doing a lot of planning. And sure, division commanders are running their division, but how much, you know, for a second, how much does, sure, the organizational, sure, the sort of personal touch of keeping that division as a a living organism, if you will. A general, I'm sure, matters, and their talents matter, but as a tactical or operational battlefield instrument, how much did the general actually matter once the battle is going? Sure, they may send in, and I'll get to some of the chat here. They may have, oh, when to send in the reinforcements for the particular division or something, or the corps general. How much did they their skill levels really matter in World War One? Now, maybe it's just my ignorance of the war and how it was fought. I just read so many more books on generals in World War Two, both, Pattons and Rommel's at fairly, Rommel in the Western Desert, campaign. He's commander of the German forces there, but that's just basically a corps commander. The Italians were an overall command and whatnot, and doing the bigger organizing thing up. But, so how much do they have an impact on how the war is going versus, on the other hand, technology, like mentioned, tanks or whatever that's coming out, or Germans coming out, though never really getting to put into large enough scale implementation, submachine guns, and as well as frontline tactics. How much, designing all those trenches. Was there some general who goes, this is how we're designing the trenches over here, and then everybody starts copying them because they're just so successful? Or were they just something that was, and this would be an interesting study to do. I don't have the wherewithal or whatever to go study all this, but it would be an interesting study to look at who is responsible for the trench architecture, and also look into how much the trench architecture differed between the French, the British, and the Germans. Because right now, that's where we really would look, because if you look at the Italians and the Austrians, well, they change because they're in such mountainous terrain facing off each other, or they're fighting, out in the Balkans, or it's on the Eastern Front, which is a different sort of a war. But, so the trench architecture, the Americans are showing up too late to be a factor. But did French trenches look different than English trenches somehow, except for like smelling different because of onions or lack thereof? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they all stunk, but I know the Germans used a lot more concrete in their construction of the trenches, but were they of a tactically different style? Or was this just something that organically developed, and the best working versions of them are what, that gets copied by both sides, whoever makes an innovation, somebody, and it gets spread around on that side. The other side captures a section of the trench and go, that's a good idea. We're doing that too. Or was this some, the planning offices of trench development, and this is, and I know they wrote manuals at some stages of the war, so I'm not saying you don't find trench layout and strategy in manuals. I'm just wondering how much is, again, somebody at a level developing it versus somebody, or they're just codifying what is already being done and spreading that information out around the front. So Yeah, these are some of the things that World War One, So World War Two, um, all those plans really start, and operational leadership of the generals and the field marshals really matter. Um, I do really think it was and leadership is important in this factor I'm going to give, but it really was the sort of organization, training, um, doctrines, whatever, of the nations. We're looking at German, France, Britain, um, are the real key elements more so than like the specific, uh, maneuvers or whatever in general. So just sort of some of the stuff that we have sort of lost, and I just think about, and that's one of the reasons I'm still playing this World War One game, because it's fascinating me. Trench slogging and mass slaughter of World War One is beyond most people, and that's exactly, Jamnuska. That's exactly why I always sort of dismissed World War One as uninteresting, not unimportant, but uninteresting to sort of study. And even when knowing about things like Lawrence of Arabia, but that's such a sideshow that's least to a Westerner seems like a minor aberration compared to what's mostly going on. There's also old versus new stuff like cavalry charges versus machine guns. We all know how that unfolded. Yeah. Yeah, so how? Okay, let's see. My work is taking me to Armenia. It's kind of cool out here, but a little dangerous. Yeah, I think Arno is getting better. I don't know if he wants to answer more than that. Because I do talk to him once in a while outside of the stream. Have you ever read The Spirit of Materialism, Gamer? It was written in 1915. It speaks accurately about a post-World War One world. That is something I'm going to copy, and The Spirit of Materialism. That may be something. Can't. Let's see. I'm going to do Control C here. Open up um, this other window here, and I want to search for that right now. Um, let's see if I put this into Amazon. Okay. Is it? Oh no, that's The Spirit of 1914 militarism and mobilization of Germany. No, that wouldn't be it. Um, doesn't look like it's on Amazon. Let me just Google this. Who knows? Maybe it's a free book that you can get. Okay, Internet Archives, English. Okay, was it a German? Der Guest Test Master. Okay, let me bookmark this. Yeah, we could do it right to there. Okay, I'll look that up sometime. Have more. Yeah, publication date 1915. Yes. Okay. But how is it written? Okay. Well, I guess yeah. 1915 speaks to that. Okay. Cool. That no, I have not, as you can tell. Um, have you read The Guns of August? JFK made his staff read it. Um, boy, that was a long time ago. I remember looking into that a long time ago. I don't know how much I actually read of it. Yes, okay, we're getting down to it. Yes, that's definitely the book I found when I Googled. Okay, yes. ruling of the new order is nothing is good, so everything must be criticized and abolished. Everything that was must be gone. Very interesting. Really good book. Okay, you're maybe talking about, yes, Guns of August too. Well, yes. I'm still feeling my way into all of this, and how do I put this? I recently had. Okay, we're going to start playing some here. A rather deep conversation with um, a few of the usual suspects over on Discord. And there was some stuff I went into and some stuff I wouldn't go into because I very much didn't want to. Uh, if I say misspeak, you're going to think just say the wrong thing, or if I say the wrong thing, you're going to think I was meaning something much more along the lines of offend somebody. No, okay, well, they got pushed back. Now, what we're gonna do is these guys can come down here. They can try and kill. We're gonna also do is these guys are gonna come down here. And you can see they're down at action points of 3 instead of 4 because their supply lines are running a little weak. Again, snow straight down. Let's take a look here. Yeah, because we can see we are getting some supply coming this way, some coming down this way, but it's not as secure. Thank you, Jemnuska. And so I'm trying to come to understand things. And it's a big task. I don't like think about it 24/7 or anything like that. And sometimes trying to put some of my ideas into words that everybody's going to understand. Um, because so many of the words are, of course, subjective to your experience. Have you ever gone fast? You know, so okay, let's take airplanes out of it because airplane travel because you're normal. Yeah, obviously if you're a fighter pilot that's going along the nape of the earth, that's really fast along. But once you get high up in the sky, it doesn't really impact you so much how fast you're going. It's just you're just up in the sky, on a plane. Whether it's a private plane or a big jet plane, but up in the sky you don't feel the speed differences. But how fast has anyone gone here? How fast? And it could be in a train, could be in a plane, could be in an automobile. Let's see if these guys, which are in better shape here, these guys they can't reinforce. So these guys are going to come down here. Amiens. And now we're going to. Now the question I have, because I can only place defenses on 3 sides. Okay, well the key here is eminence around it. I was going to say which sides do I put the defenses. I'm putting them on the outer side here to be able to surround and cut off and stop relief forces from coming in. Okay, they have 4 action points, so these guys can come up to here and trench that direction, I think. You can move into this one. See, and we'll be able to attack next turn. Okay. But no one's answering my how fast has anyone gone? Because, and so, have you gone fast? I was a passenger, one of just the only passenger in the car. But I was once in a car that was going 85 miles an hour according to the speedometer. 85 miles an hour. And boy, that was going fast. Now, the, I don't know, punchline, if you will, of it was we were passing a car who was doing 150 miles an hour. Okay, we're going to expend 1 shell, 1 barrage. Sort of, yeah, see that really sort of pushed them back into these guys. Let's look at our here. We're getting ready to put these guys into a massive. I think we're going to go straight north. No. since I did so well with my last, prompt at trying to get people to respond to me, I'll do it again. Yay. Is this still working right? Does anybody know what very fast car that the speedometer only goes up to 85 miles an hour? I don't know if it's the only one, but one of the ones. Wow. We're going to move the cavalry division. I don't know that I want to sit next to that, so we're going to tap this. He's going to go like that. And we're going to move him up here like this and entrench him. Let's look at supply. What's supply going to be like? Right down there. Okay, there will be some supplies, I think. So let's get them down here. Okay, didn't work. My plan of trying to get you guys to respond. You across over. You move up there. Okay, yes, you can move up. You can move up and I don't know miles per hour, so I'd look it up. 130 kilometers for the fellow Euros. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. Well, we're going to move this division down to here. It's in good shape. We're going to max this division out, reinforcement, and this detachment come up and go into the gap in the line. So now we have 2 detachments. But, how bold is our computer? These guys in here, and we will have them. Yeah, I think we need to redo it. But so, unlike miles per hour and kilometers an hour, what does that mean to people and language? So, and I heard this or saw it on Twitter or something, this really fascinating idea that 1,000 years from now, archaeologists and historians, if we look back 1,000 years ago, we're looking, approximately 1066. William's conquest of England, at least from, I know few of you are from a bit more Eastern Europe or even other parts of the world, so you have other points of reference. But the big point is, William the Conqueror's conquest of England in 1066. That's approximately 1,000 years ago. How much of the world will be left that we know 1,000 years from now? They're going to look at the recipes that we have that survive, and they're going to be cursing, I say, or they said, but yes, I would agree with that. What kind of eggs? God damn it, what kind of eggs? Not are they scrambled or um, boiled or whatever. No, but because that's where you might go of, how do you want your eggs when you go into a restaurant? No, they will be going, well, what kind of eggs? Are these duck eggs? Quail eggs? Could they be chicken eggs? But everybody knows in all the recipes, and if I were to hand, at least to anybody in Europe or, European cultural ancestry, a recipe and it calls for 2 eggs, you all know they're chicken eggs. Because if you put in 2 quail eggs, fine. I don't know how that would taste different. It might not specifically on the eggs. I don't know. I have not sampled a bunch of different eggs or seagull eggs or whatever. But quail eggs are much smaller, so just the proportion of egg versus the rest of the ingredients would be way off. So, how do they describe and understand the world before World War One? And we now, who have never experienced that world, how do we, differentiate the ideas back then as someone and it's sort of become a thing now? The past really was, or it really is, a foreign country. So that is something that you know can be understood, that it's different, but how we're going to move into here is to continue to push down here. We do have this rail. Okay. Yeah, you entrench. And you're wait. Faces that problem with 18th century videos. A lot of history is lost forever because it wasn't documented properly. Yes. And yeah, Townsend, again, I've watched a few of his videos, and way back in the day, in the 90s, I used to buy stuff from his catalog. That's how far back I got with him before there was a YouTube. I'm sure I even have a couple of his old catalogs. Now, he is looking at the colonial America, where I was looking at the Scottish Highlands and whatnot, and I was associating with literally some of the world experts on the topic, and two or three of them at least were part of the group that I was, you know, helping to run. I want to say I wasn't the one in charge, but I was more at the top of the organizational pyramid of organizing things up. But yeah, we had some really, really talented um, people. To the trench. Yes, that looks good. We're going to trench way out here at the front. Let's go more like that. And so, um, and how literal, how very few bits of material culture, meaning objects, um, are left from that period in 18th century. Before sort of towns and well, at least for a lot of the stuff that they were selling, really sort of focused. Well, some mountain man stuff, but really focused. Around the American Revolutionary War, so the uh, 1770s, where I was looking more 1730s to 1740s, um, and things like how few paintings of that were reliable, clothing, and that type of thing that we could look at to see what was going on with the material culture. So yeah, it's that kind of thing. So trying to quantify, express what from what to what. Okay, I've sort of quantified it, and I love, if anybody here who's watching and thinks terms may change, help me to do this. Right now, from what is the question mark, to is cogs and formulas. Okay, before we were what, and then we changed into to arguing over and looking at the world through cogs and formulas. Humans are essentially cogs in the machine. And sure, like when you make a cog in the machine, yeah, cog is just if for those of you who might not know, I figure you all do, but maybe that's a big presumption. A cog is the sort of square part that sticks out on a round circle that that goes around, on wheels, and interacts with other cogs to make the machines work, if you will. Um, sure, they need to be machined. The cogs need to, and humans need to be educated, would maybe a good term, but formed into it. But essentially, it goes down to its core of a lot of this DEI stuff, and like I heard that the Royal Air Force in Britain, if you need to know who the Royal Air Force is when an English speaker says it, um, they're getting a lot of useless applicants for fighter pilots. Not because they're not qualified to be fighter pilots. They're just all white males because they now have and value diversity quotas that they want applicants who are qualified, who supposedly are qualified, can take the G forces and whatnot to be a pilot, but of somebody of a non-white ethnic background. So those pilots, those are what they need to have. And so they're presuming that whether it's a non-white male or a non-male, they could if some of the just apply, that there's plenty of people out there with their qualifications, and that if they just applied, they could be just plugged into the fighter seats, of the airplanes. But what if different cultures that sometimes align with skin colors, like for the moment, I know Britons often call them Asians, but we'll call them Indians, people from the subcontinent of India. And I'm being inclusive of Pakistanis and Bangladeshis at the moment, but the people of the subcontinent of India, what if they value in their life, or so many of them value in their life, and pursue as activities such, and even those that live in Britain, such that they don't qualify to be a fighter pilot for Britain. Not that they're not physically capable of it, but they don't study enough. Really, I mean, he was a vague friend of mine, but really more of a friend of a friend. That back in college, he was in Air Force ROTC studying to be, a pilot, fighter pilot. And that's what he wanted to be. And he needed glasses. His eyesight just wasn't good enough to be a pilot. Just not enough. But he could qualify to be a navigator the second seat guy in some of the aircraft, the fighter bombers or whatever that have a second seat aircraft. So he thought that that was a reasonable compromise. But in going through his training program, he couldn't do the math fast enough. He could do the math, but not fast enough, because those jets are moving so fast, and whatever math calculations you had to do, because this was still, I don't know what they're trained to do today, but not training to just look at your, GPS and say, turn right here, that you had to actually navigate and have a map, a paper map in your, cockpit and navigate and know, you're flying at X speed in this direction for this amount of time. And he couldn't keep up with the aircraft. He ended up being the closer friend stayed in touch with him longer. He ended up being, in the Air Force, but, at a desk job somewhere. Decent, an officer, but not in even a, navigator. So he couldn't do the math fast enough. Well, what if they're just, people from India are just not interested, enough of them. And I'm not saying that I know lots of programmers coming from India. I'm just using this as, but what if they value, I don't know, the people who can think brightly, spiritual teaching, and they're studying other things than, or they're studying, how to become a CPA, a certified public accountant, and going to go into business. They don't value wanting to sit in that cockpit, or not many of them do. And those that may do, they don't necessarily have the academic background, the correct academic background, or the physical talents to fly a fighter jet. Because you got to take all those G-forces and react fast and all that kind of stuff. So even though there may be plenty of Indians out there, or even plenty of Indians living in Britain to make up some of the quotas, they just may not be pursuing being a fighter pilot as a career, so they're just not applying for it. So it's not necessarily a genetic thing. It's just they don't care. Those that would be able to be qualified don't care enough to go get qualified and join up. because they want to start their own business and whatever, or they want to study their religion or whatever, other endeavors. So, see, um, how do when you just try to describe and understand things, you have to sort of take some. I know I'm sort of long-winded and get around to it. Um, take that into account that not everybody can be shaped into the cogs that are needed. Meaning there may be, like I'm trying to say, there may be enough people out there that could be good fighter pilots, and with the right training, they would be good fighter pilots. But not everyone can be shaped into being a good fighter pilot. So I can explain cogs well enough, and I can explain formulas well enough to the people here. Communism, capitalism, dictatorship, democracy. These are the formulas, and we could obviously get down into the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Germany versus the Constitution of the United States of America. And we can compare the constitutions and get out all the flow charts and see how the power dynamics work and all the formulas and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, and we can go into details like that, or we can just do, constitutional republics. They work within constitutions. Or you get, something that's Britain, which is just more pass laws. Parliament passes laws. They become laws. There's no fixed constitution to compare. Is a law constitutional or not? My dream was to be a fighter pilot, but my vision is bad, so I never can. Yep, we all have those physical limitations. Every one of us has a physical limitation. You can talk about some very tall, very athletic person who becomes, a significant multimillionaire in the NBA, but not just needing to have their clothes basically all custom made, but they've got to, they got to worry about going through every standard doorway in homes. So even though their physicality has made them a success in life. Now, of course, there's other people with big physicality that just are handicapped by it. But we all have our physical limitations. Yeah, but it's different being an actual plane, Arno. Trust me. It's there's a big difference between doing and doing on the computer. Doing on the computer is fine. Is a fun activity. Yeah, I know, but it's still, people's desires to do and be things are important. Okay, let's see. We're going to push him down to here, and he's going to entrench looking that way. He's going to come down here, entrench. That way. He can come down here. So yeah, um, but what was there before cogs and formulas? My friend Fritz, sort of discussing this topic, but sort of used the term humanistic. And he may have even at the time been meaning to say humanely, but humanistic. That might be the term to use instead of what became before cogs. But what is, there are very few people, very few thinkers out there that were talking about the inherent value. I think that would be a good term. Or moralistic value of one formula over another in the past. Not necessarily, pre-Lockean, pre-Locke, and John Locke for you, if you want to know who I'm talking about. Yeah, sure, we do have, Plato and Aristotle talking about their sort of six forms, and which three good and three bad. But really, out in society, out in thinkers, it wasn't like the fight against dictatorship or the fight for democracy or whatever. No. Some countries were monarchies, some countries were republics. And like I'm thinking of, um, you know, uh, the Kingdom of France in the 16th century, or the Republic of Venice in the 16th century. It wasn't like, yeah, maybe you're going to, because you like your city state Republic of Venice, you're going to fight for its republic and try to keep things. Or, like, what was the Netherlands going to be? Was it going to be a republic, or was it going to be a monarchy, with the House of Orange, etc.? So you have a certain amount of that, maybe, but not, I don't know, heavily. Okay, let's look at supply here. We got 5 down to there. So let's. They can't. We got to run away. I don't want to be next to you if I can't dig in. Okay. Well, they can't dig in. Oh, my fate. I ended up in the mechanized, and I can't complain anything but infantry. Yeah, and it's fine. And so very few people were idealistically fighting. They were fighting for religion, and that's sort of, and here I want to explain something that I don't think a lot of modern people understand why. And I know gamers all over the place today, but this is sort of a therapy session for gamer, and I hope you guys have enjoyed hanging out as part of my therapy session. But I don't think people understand why there are religious wars. I think most modern people think of religious wars just as someone is trying to impose their religion onto somebody else. And it's an evil thing to do so. Partially because... Oh, and please let me explain. When you have an ideology that not all ideologies do this, but when you have like a political type ideology that expressly has a message or understanding about religion, it is a religious ideology as well. Meaning, if your version of communism, doesn't have to be, but if your version of communism believes and states something like religion is the opiate of the masses, okay? Meaning religion as a thing is a false thing, meaning it is just a false opiate for the people. You've now stated, in essence, that you are an atheist and you're trying to fight the religion. So that type of... Now, you can have communism and believe in God. You can just reject part of Marxist communism. I mean, that is quite possible. But if you're following sort of the Marxist-Leninist communist model, that is a religion partially as well, too, because they're rejecting religion. But the real reason for religious wars is a certainty that you have the proper religion, and the other religion or religions are false, and so those who don't believe in it are going to go to hell, or whatever negative aspects you have in your religious beliefs. And if you truly believe this, and if the other people do not allow you to go in and express your religious beliefs, and at the most extreme level, you believe that you must stop the spread of false religion by, whether permanently imprisoning somebody or, chopping off their head. So if you believe that as, and that's very extreme. But if you just say, like some countries out there do not allow you to go in and spread your religion if it's different than theirs. And so if you look at that and go, that's a false religion, they have false religion, and they're not allowing us to go in and spread the true religion, well, then you have a value judgment that all the average people who don't know any better, they're just all going to go to hell. And the eternal life after death is more important than the life on here on this earth. So it would be better to go in and conquer those people, kill however many are necessary, and then go start teaching them the correct religion. It's actually, in a real sort of, at least to a lot of us moderns, a weird act of love. You are going in and where necessary, making sure your religious message is heard, and you believe that once you can get out there and explain everything, everybody is going to go, God damn it, you're right, because you're telling the truth. You're just going to believe this. And so, cool. Iron Wolf Brigade sounds cool. And so, and then of course, so that's one reason for why there are religious wars, is somebody wants to go out and make sure that their message is heard. And there is legitimacy to this viewpoint, especially if you believe that you have the one right religious viewpoint. On the other side, the other reason for religious wars is you are not being allowed to practice your religion. And that we could see in the wars of religious reformation, post Martin Luther in Europe. Um, because prior to that, we can see the Catholics, going after heretic religious sects like the Cathars and whatever. And I'm not trying to endorse them or any other particular religious sect, but they would go in and slaughter everybody, basically. Um, so you're having to fight for the exercise of your religion. Um, and because of the sort of binary response, are you Catholic or are you Protestant, you could not necessarily, not that, you're going to necessarily go after all of the individual Catholics, but you are going to not allow Catholic churches to function or the Catholic clergy to function in your region. You've you're getting rid of them one way or another. Either they flee or you kill them. But is to be able to resist being forced into somebody else's or some other religious belief, sort of a defensive religious war, if you will. And it may be maybe there was peace beforehand, but a new religion is spreading, and the the authorities say no, this is incorrect, and not allow you to do so, and so you fight it. There is a minor edge case out there of religious wars is when you encounter a religion that is just so abhorrent to you that you feel it is evil and just must be stamped out. And a good example of this, in my opinion, would be the Aztec religion in what is today modern Mexico, with their mass human sacrifices that these were, of course, strong Catholic Spaniards that had just gotten finished fighting the Reconquista in Spain, and have the Inquisition to stamp out initially, false Christians that were Muslims that just claimed to be Christians, and then targeting the Jews who claimed to be Christians and whatnot, because they expelled the open Jews and the crypto Jews they were going after and whatnot. So, hello, MNDB. So, yeah, once in a while you can find, a religion out there that is just so abhorrent that it for the sake of lives, or whatever you feel you must strike at. But that's sort of the reasons. And so, yes, if you truly believe that the afterlife is more important than this life, one, and you truly believe you have the one right answer, and that's important that it's the one right answer, and that all other answers to the religious question are wrong, and so anybody who believes the wrong stuff will doomed to go to hell, it would be better to go in and conquer and kill only who you really need to kill, but obviously pre-modern world, and even in the modern world that might be hard to figure out who you need to kill and who you don't need to kill, and then go in and try to, spread the correct religion and suppress the incorrect religion. Now, I don't find that personally satisfactory, but that's what people were fighting about. Now, is that a formula? Is a spiritual belief a formula? Maybe after a fashion. But so we weren't fighting over, I don't know, cogs and formulas versus what? Humanist and what? I don't know, as a factor here. Okay, so let's see. We have some of our Austrian contingent over here. Is there anybody back here we know? Okay, let's see. We can purchase another division, so let's make sure we have full infantry weapons. Or a detachment and a division. Here we go. Austria, we are all full up. We're getting some MPPs built up. Okay, close. I'm not against. Well, and I do note what Elizabeth's saying. Everyone should serve. Not that Elizabeth said everybody must serve or something as a. Oh, I want to. Let me grab this tool. Okay. Now we can quickly go in here. Supersize that artillery piece. This is a great tool. I've only I forget who put me on to this tool, but I did not know about it until very recently. To find the either because of supply we can now do, or do we want to? No, we'll reinforce these guys. We'll move them shortly. All right, pretty good. Now, I've often for the game here thought about, should I play against a human who would very likely make better, good, defensive anti-aircraft, that might be good for once. Better choices than the AI is going to make. More dynamic, like to realize, oh shit, we should fall back to this better defensive line or whatnot. And that's quite true, as trying to have an opponent that would better challenge you as a player. Like I say, that's quite true. But this could also be looked at as sort of my overall theme with World War I, in that a lot of the leadership elements were just unable, not unwilling, but unable to come to terms with the situation. They weren't talking particularly, and I was talking last Sunday to the War Thunder crowd with Dino, that a lot of the leadership, particularly in Germany, just was not of a mindset to come to the conclusion, not that the war was lost in 1915 or 1916, but that the war was unwinnable by military means at that point. And so that, not that you should surrender, but, again, and the reaction both of the French government and particularly also the British government, and whatever of the Russian government, but in 1915 or 1916, to a serious attempt at a negotiated peace, would be very different to the acceptance of you know conditions for the ending of the war than what it becomes later. So they can march down here. These guys here. They're going to fall because they're in a very weak position. These guys are going to come up and they're going to. Oh, they can't entrench. Oh, damn. Okay, well, not maybe what I wanted so much. Okay, so we're seeing a significant shift, I think, of forces down to some of these other places here. Okay, we've got 5 shots. We've got a tank. We've got Amiens. Just kick it for all of you. We may want to use him to go in a different direction here. There we go. Put that. Defensive artillery there. Yes. Okay, so we can move out here. Can't attack that turn. Taking the capital. I'm going to move up there and not give them a huge amount of possibilities, but is somebody down there? I sort of expected that, but glad to know. Okay, did you see the new Hoi DLC reveal? Yes, I did. It looks like Paradox is in a downward spiral. Well, I think a lot of these big game companies are in something of a downward spiral. I do know a certain level of wokeism has infected into Paradox. When you have fortunately, at least in my dealings with Paradox and Hearts of Iron 4, it had always seemed, and it was mostly female representation. They were trying to do everything they could, and I even see this in Slytherin/Matrix as well. But they're trying to do everything they could to up female representation, but it did seem like they still at the time wanted to stay within historical bounds. Couple of things that I sort of helped facilitate, I'm not going to mention because one of them didn't get implemented. At least not that I've noticed, but I haven't been paying attention. And there's still a certain amount of confidentiality around it. And to the point of, you know, facilitating real historically based female representation within World War II. I'm happy to. Quite honestly, I am. We have the one sort of general. Well, I don't know if there's any American considered. I don't think there. No, I'm pretty damn sure there wasn't at least anything considered an American general that was female in World War II. And even in something like the Waves, the Wax, and yeah, I guess it's just the Waves and the Wax. There was sort of a Marine Corps women's auxiliary, but within those organizations. But the only frontline sort of military commander general that was a woman was sort of a half Japanese, half Chinese woman who had a was as much a spy and other sort of things. I'm blanking on her name right now. Up in Manchukuo, she commanded, and again, I don't know how big this organization was, but and how formal was how not formal, but how actual in combat she was commanding. But I do think a bit, sort of, Manchukuo and cavalry up there. No, I don't know that any big battles, but counterinsurgency type operations. I'm not saying that they didn't battle hundreds of other, opponents at one time. It just not, huge operation or anything like that. And I think that woman is in the standard general list, though it's sort of not pointed out much in Hearts of Iron 3 when they still had divisional generals for up there. Or is that maybe just mod added? I'm not sure. But there was like one cabinet member in FDR's cabinet who was a woman, and I'm forgetting it was some sort of domestic. And it wasn't like the woman's department that she was in head of. It was some domestic agency or something that she headed up. But or talking about something like the I'm forgetting the British. Well, the Americans also had the women's ferry pilots that would ferry aircraft around, not non-combat operations, and things like that. I'm happy to talk up the roles that women played in World War II that were historically based. I am in no way against or counter to the idea of doing that, but they were going out of their way, and the reason why I say it's a bit woke, they're going out of their way to get that representation in the game. Looking for it particularly, not just, I happen to notice that, there was a this. Oh, okay, let's stick that in the game. That sounds cool. And then just go on. No, it was like, how much can we find? Now, they put a woman in charge of Paradox. When the main sort of, I think still largest share owner, Frederick Wesser, was still on the board of directors, I believe, but left his position at Paradox. To my knowledge, he's come back. I know he came back. To my knowledge, he's still there, Frederick Wesser. Other than on Twitter a little bit, I've never really interacted with him. So, meaning I don't think he knows who the hell I am at all. I mean, other than just some, player of, I don't even know if he knew I was a YouTuber and interacting with, again, when he was posting about some games, Hearts of Iron or whatever. And he responded a few times or something, not just liking my comment, but a little bit of a discussion. But yeah, but I'm saying, no, compared to some people that I rather interacted with in the company, he was just a little bit. He came back in, and one thing they did was that the woman was pursuing a lot of different projects, and a lot of projects that were out of the, shall we say, core competency of Paradox. But we can look at, it wasn't so much the early announcement and subsequent problems with Hearts of Iron 4 that was the problem. It was Imperator Rome game. That showed the laziness of Paradox. I remember Johan trying to defend that game because that was his sort of baby, his sort of new thing. He came out in one of the big annual things wearing a toga and whatnot, and he was trying to explain how good this game was. And we, the players, were going, huh? What? Because it was a good formula. Back to formulas and cogs. But it had no flavor. So it was maybe, we can criticize it, but he was coming out and saying it was a perfectly balanced meal or perfectly balanced diet. We're going, yeah, but those are just all bland flavors. It's just the same for whatever. Where's the pizza? Where's the spaghetti? Where's the, Western steak? Where's the sushi? Where's where's all the rich flavors in the food? Where's the spices? And now they added some more spices into it, and as its sort of final product, it was actually starting to get pretty good. But they just did not have the flavor. They just got lazy, in my opinion. And so there was a lot of good mechanics, and we can argue over the mechanics, and I would over some if I really started to look back into it. I actually started the game up a month or two ago. Didn't really play very far into it because I love to play. I played a few. There's probably about 30 episodes I made of that game that are just up on the server that have never been released because I made a bunch, just continued playing, making a bunch of episodes because I was having so much fun. But then viewership plummeted and hurting my channel massively, so I stopped releasing the episodes. So I just made, just because I was having fun, I just kept making more and more episodes, not just, making one and then releasing one and making another, releasing one. Just made a bunch. So that's part of their problem, and let's see, seeing women in a game does not make me want to buy the game. I think it's a political agenda of the revisionist and inclusion more than pandering to getting more women players. You are right for part of that, I would say, Elizabeth. What they do is those with the political agendas don't necessarily walk into whatever sort of meetings they have, but with a badge that says, I'm a DEI spreader and I will say anything and everything to get more DEI into whatever you're doing, whether it's a game, a movie, brake pads. We're going to sell brake pads to women. Well, well, they don't change their brakes enough, and we're going to try to, sell them more. Whatever it is, they don't necessarily come in with that on their, on their lapel. They come in and they explain to the money people is, yes, Hearts of Iron, look it is 99, because from this, Elizabeth is one of the, unicorn is something that's supposed to be out there that doesn't exist. But if we take a unicorn as in something ever so rare, I look at my stats on my channel and I think all of the, and it's to a point. Women are often unmeasurable from my YouTube channel, or they're like 1 or 2%. And I think the 1 or 2% are purely watching my Baldur's Gate content. I know Elizabeth is here now, but often if you look at over the lifetime of the channel, because I used to be under a different name, which you can see on the Baldur's Gate stuff. I used to be very involved in the modding community way back in the day when, the games were first released. Baldur's Gate 2 was before Baldur's Gate 2 came out. I was already in the modding community for that, and there were some very prominent women modders, not just hangers on, but actually making mods way back in the day, programming and whatnot. So there was always, and they were always in the minority, but a significantly, like I don't know, let's just say of active people, and some of them were more in the design and what elements and voice acting, more so maybe than coding, but they were easily 30% of the the sort of mod. I'm talking not just player base, but the sort of modding community. Thinking back, yeah, maybe 30% of the community, 20%, 30%. So a good chunk. For Dungeons and Dragons things way back in those days, that's a pretty big percent number. So that's what I figure is what sort of, for me and women on my channel. There's just very few women here, but they'll go to something like this or their basic player base of EU and whatever else, and go to the money people and go, we've got this overwhelmingly male thing, but if we just sprinkle this magic woman dust on it, we're going to, no, it's not going to be, obviously it's not going to become primarily women playing this game, but we're going to add 20% more people to the player base because that will now attract women into this thing. And it never, at least in media, which including games or music or television or movies, it never attracts as many as they claim it will. And it normally drives away, for whatever reasons, and not just, I'm male, I want to see male stuff, get these women out of this thing. It just changing the flavor of Star Wars or whatever enough, because Star Wars, yeah, Princess Leia was a core character. And yeah, sure she was being arrested early on and then rescued, but she was, blasting the hole in the wall after she's rescued from the jail cell, and they're jumping into the trash compactor, and yeah, she gets them into another bad spot, but she's being an active person of the story, but maybe even she is sort of being told, not that she's being a male in her actions, but she's sort of being viewed and looked at from a male perspective in there, but she's still playing a prominent role. And we get in a Star Trek from literally the suits pushed down, women in very prominent roles from the test version. I forget. There's a, oh boy, I'm blanking on see, I do this on proper names. There's the test, unreleased original test version that then they turned it into the Menagerie, which was a 2-hour movie that for TV kind of thing that they turned it into. But because sort of number 2 was a woman in that version who the studio didn't like, so Gene Roddenberry put her into a blonde wig and she became Nurse Chapel, and then later became the Betazoid mother of Deanna Troi, and I'm blanking again on her name too. Just blanking on names here. So yeah, there was always prominent roles, but it was definitely sort of told for a male interest stories, action, adventure. Sure, there's drama and there's other things that women can relate to, I presume, and because there are a lot of women fans of it, but it is overwhelmingly a male interest show. So it's both Star Wars and Star Trek were never exclusionary in it's not like some Band of Brothers or the old, just popping in my head, old Sergeant Rock comic books that were GIs in World War II. So it's just like all guys except for they encounter some French woman that they're rescuing or something occasionally or whatever. It's all it's just a band of brothers kind of thing. No, it's Star Wars. Star Trek has always had women as part of it, and George Lucas's wife was the main editor on and really supposedly saved the original Star Wars edit. And came up with that whole the Death Star coming around the planet, to destroy Yavin at the very end, and she was the one that edited all that sort of drama together, and wasn't George. So yeah, in front of the camera, behind the camera, women have always been there and played exceedingly important parts of the story, but they take what is in essence a male-oriented story plot line that women are participating in, and women are very welcome to be part of the fan base, and not trying to change it into a Disney princess or other sort of women-centric storytelling, but it's still coming out of a male-centric area, so women aren't that interested in it. That will attract maybe a few more, but it turns off. Not that they hate the women thing, but that's not what they came there for. Turns off so much of the original player, viewer, or whatever fan base. That's sort of the problem. Even when it's done well and not just done badly, that's part of the problem. So yeah, Paradox, get back on it. Paradox has become lazy. Paradox has, I don't know, and I'll see if anybody's said anymore. I'm still sort of staring off and thinking about this. Paradox has or had two core fan bases. And yes, Hearts of Iron still has lots of player count and sell a bunch of DLCs, though they've waited way too long for a German DLC. They should have done it 2 years ago. Doing all these, yes, I know. Hello, Von Schweinhound. I'll get to the chats in just a moment. Don't worry, I value you all very highly, but I do think you go on my own tangents here. I do know, and talking to a few people, oh my God, they're adding a Norwegian tank to War Thunder or a new Norwegian aircraft. We all got to go out and buy it, my few Norwegian friends, or something like that. Or one of them, oh, new Polish content for War Thunder. Yeah, I'm going to buy that, even for money. And so people do buy things that relate to them. So doing some of these like South American expansion DLCs, and they look at, well, I don't know if South Americans have any money that Paradox is interested in having, as opposed to local money, but they can sell a bunch of stuff. Fucking what is the hell does Latin America have to do with World War II? Oh yeah, a bunch of the nations ended up at war, and it's all part of the global war. Yeah, but I mean, my God, why don't you do a German DLC before you do a goddamn Latin American DLC? But yeah, I don't know if that's a diversity inclusion thing that gets sold to the suits because, hey, we'll get all this money. But I know from stats, including certain stuff that was looked at back in Hearts of Iron 3 days, it was like 60% of players played Germany. Now the total number added up to more than 100% because you could pick, what countries do you play? It wasn't just, pick a country. It was, pick more. So, well more than half the players played Germany. Okay? So you have a game that more than half your players play as Germany. Now, they may also play as America, or play as Romania, or play as China, or maybe they, some of them play as all the big nations or all the small nations. Yeah, but you get something that more than half of your players play as a nation, and you're how many years in to be for your first real big German DLC? What? How, from a financial standpoint, how is that even, that you're even thinking in those terms, that you haven't done it earlier? And from an interest in World War II things, how isn't that an early on thing? And I can understand that if you do Germany first and you buff it up too much by too many, national focuses, blah, 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 other things will suffer. So, yeah, maybe you need to start out and do the Western ally, the Western European allies. Do the Soviets or something like that. And, of course, early on they were fixing all kinds of stuff. But after the first year or so, by 2 years... By 2 years out from release, you should have done a major German DLC. A major one. And so I don't know if they were just afraid of, catering to Nazis or what, but it's... And of course, they've driven away, including me, a lot of the core World War II players because they have gone to too many fantasy World War II stuff as a seemingly prioritized. But from their perspective, those people are often the people who play EU and Crusader Kings and Vicky. That just, see, I have long described Hearts of Iron 4 as being EU for the 20th century. And so I don't know. Paradox, I don't know about the talent that's there. And I know there's a lot of talent there, or at least was. I mean, I'm not paying attention anymore. Whether it's coding talent or whether it's, artistic talent. There's a lot of talent there. I don't know if the decision-making people are... I presume they're salvageable. But I don't know. I think to a point, and I understand the concept, line goes up, things better. And I understand them looking around and going, there's total war. And I don't know the numbers, because I know Paradox has gone up, but there is really something about looking, there's total war out there, whichever total war you're talking about, game, and go, God, that has a huge player base. How many of them are playing Paradox games? 10%. Let's just throw out a number. I don't know. Maybe it's 50%. But, significantly play or own Paradox games. Play. Not just own. I did say own, but maybe they bought and then played a little bit and got lost in it. Do you want to challenge... And I'm blanking on whoever owns Total War. Do you really want to challenge Total War and put in the money and the effort to challenge Total War? Again, this could be any of the periods or fantasy, Total War, Warhammer, or whatever. Challenge Total War to a fight for their player base and put the money and effort into it. And if you do that, two things are going to happen. One for sure. One, all the people that were your player base who weren't Total War are going to reject you because they would have already been playing Total War if that was what they were looking for. They were looking for something different, something, at least in the past, a bit more realistic, and particularly for Hearts of Iron, but also for some of the other games, more realistic and more detailed than Total War. So they were looking for something more realistic and more detailed than Total War. So you're going to lose them because they would have been over that other thing already. And two, are you really going to come up with something new and fresh that you're going to market and win that battle with Total War? That's at least, maybe if not defeat Total War, but make enough money, and maybe they did, I don't know, but make enough money that makes it worth going into that fight. Because sure, if you come off second to Total War, but you have a big enough, second place, oh, you're making money, you're doing great. You got money coming in, ka-ching, 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 it's coming in. Right? So that works. But if you don't, not that whether you have a profit or not over, game development costs, but especially if you don't have a profit over everything on game development cost, then you're going to lose. But even if you just marginally win, you could have had your original player base and maybe do very well, but you've alienated. It's sort of like going woke. Oh, Sega, yeah, whoever, yeah. So you're looking at that kind of thing. And so I really think Paradox has lost its way. It's, this game here, I really, really love this divisional game with these turns and whatnot. But you step it up to the grand strategy version of World War I. And I love Herbert and the crew that do this, and I think they do a very good job at making strategic command games. But the AI levels, the programming levels, the artistic, this does sort of look like not felt, but the sort of type of cloth you put down on a table to then put miniatures on the table. This has this very sort of feel for miniatures mixed with counters kind of look, wargamey, tabletop, mix, like I say, a mix of miniature war games and chip war games and whatnot. But this ain't even their best version of strategic command or war plan comes nowhere near Hearts of Iron 3 in its detail, in its hourly turns, and all of that kind of stuff, and its AI programming, however massively flawed it is still so much better than what these guys are doing for the scale that they're doing it on. They just do not get anywhere near it. And I don't know that Slytherin/Matrix really has the money to fund a development of a Hearts of Iron scale game. But so it's not always additive, meaning adding to things. Sometimes it's just, for every player you gain, you're going to lose 2, or even for every player for every 2 players you gain, you lose 1. So yeah, you're expanding your player base or your purchasing base, but you're not expanding it. You're not adding 2. You're only adding 1 in total numbers, and you're alienating some that might fall. So I haven't been paying much, because to a point, and it isn't just because I work with Slytherin. That I've stopped working with Paradox. Because for a while I was sort of working. I'm not saying being paid by. I mean like being in the closed betas and and whatnot, in Paradox, and having interactions with developers in Paradox. I was doing that while I was also working with Slytherin too for a while. It's just I lost interest in anything that Paradox was doing for Hearts of Iron, except for their basic mechanics, because I just lost interest in other than sort of showcasing when anew, and I not paying attention to my YouTube channel enough to cover Gata Damarung. But if I was still doing, still paying attention to my YouTube channel enough to cover something like that coming out, yeah, I would play the, initially when it first comes out, or as soon as if I get my hands on it prior to it coming out, which always helps the YouTube channel, I would play some of the standard game to just sort of examine it. But I've already, even long before, checked out on the idea. Even before Hearts of Iron 4 was released, I gave up caring about how effective some particular thing was, a unit, a tank type, or whatever in the game, because I knew I was going to focus in on modded games, whether it was going to be the Black Ice or somebody else, modded games, and I was only concerned with features and how well they could be modded, because I gave up on caring about the vanilla or base game, or however you want to call it, even with DLCs, and I'm still there. So if God of Damarung adds a new functional feature to the game, great. And I mean, if it's something I like, great. But if it's just more national focuses, just more flavor, and flavor's good. But if it's just that, I don't care. I'm so they've lost me so much that I don't care anymore. I what can be modded, and so yeah. And here I was, one of the significant modders of Hearts of Iron 3. In the got through influence, got into the beta before, because there was, oh hey, because closed beta, apply for the closed beta, blah 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 blah, and when everyone else applied, and I applied and I failed to get in, and then I poked a few people and I got in because I had already interacted. But whoever was doing the choosing, going through, getting choice, getting in, didn't know of me, didn't care, whatever. And I didn't get in. But yeah, I knew Podcat and a few other people, and I poked a little bit, and lo and behold, I got in. And even when they were cleaning house and I was becoming less and less active, just because I was a YouTuber and I'd contributed some stuff, stayed around for a while, and when I finally got kicked, I wasn't upset, because I hadn't. It had been like 6 months since I had sent in any sort of report on any sort of beta version of Hoi 4 at that point, literally like 6 months or more. And then they did a fresh clearing of, inactive beta testers. And yeah, no, I wasn't upset one little bit, because I hadn't done anything in a long time that would be even seen as vaguely helpful. So it's no resentment for being kicked at all by that point. So yeah, let's look at the chat. I do value all of your people. Okay, let's see. Okay, see women. Okay, streaming the game on DLC may be good for viewership. Replay. Yeah, I've got too much other stuff going on in my life to worry about that. I did last weekend, of course, do Burden of Command. I do sort of know a little, know as and interact on Twitter a bit with the development crew and whatnot there for Burden of Command, and I really like the concept, so I definitely covered that once I could, but I don't know how much I'm going to continue until it's released. Okay, yeah, but go back, watch my old videos. I go so deep on all of that stuff, like the Schutzstaffel. Okay, evening. My opinion, one of Paradox specific problems now is that the company stock market listed, thus short-term oriented. Very, very true. Very true. Women love Crusader Kings. It's basically The Sims. Yeah, and I've only touched a bit Crusader Kings in the past, and it's always looked like a very good game to me. It's just time. if you do deep dives into games, play them slowly, and this is whatever versions of Crusader Kings back in the day, because I played Europa Universalis, not 2 or 3. There was just that. I played that original game, and I was in those days not paying attention to who's developing anything. So I played the original EU and I played the hell out of it. And then I found, oh, there's a new version out. Once and this was buying stuff on discs. EU2, and I played a bunch of that. And so, how many thousands of hours do I have to put into games to play EU, Crusader Kings, Vicky, and Hearts of Iron, and all kinds of other things. So yeah, so I do really like Crusader Kings. It just one more thing. Okay, I don't know, maybe he's already back. My brother made me watch Star Trek once. It was the one with the Ferengi. Okay, yeah. Well, that's Star Trek Next Generation, which is all right, but still, the original way back in the day was groundbreaking. They did a Turkey DLC, but didn't touch Iraq or Iran, which were not just bystanders in the war like Turkey was. I mean that whole why do DLCs for things? Yeah, Sega owns Total War. Also, Total War is about the battles. I'd say it doesn't overlap with, well, but I think they're chasing that audience, and you're really right. It doesn't. I know. Oh, gamer and his mental blocks. Let me open up Steam here. Seeing that's fine because it's sort of open. Field of Glory. See, once I get here, Field of Glory 2. And because you can see here, I have Field of Glory Empires, Field of Glory 2, which is Field of Glory Empires is a strategy game that interacts with Field of Glory 2. I don't have Kingdoms installed on this. I think it's on my laptop, but and Medieval here. Updates are required. Field of Glory 2 Medieval. In my opinion, it would have been best to take Field of Glory, some of elements of Field of Glory Empires, though I think it's pretty weak as a strategy game. And it is sort of like the idea of just a way to generate battles. But Field of Glory 2, with instead of trying to do Total War in its real-time battles, do the sort of miniature tabletop turn-based battles of Field of Glory 2, and interact that with Imperator Rome, but put in a little bit of the Empire's additional flavor, some of the trade goods and some of the industry that's dependent upon different trade goods and some of the different cultural stuff. Buildings and whatnots that are cultural based that later elements of Imperator Rome did have into it. Had they done something like that, I think they would have had a really, to use the modern kids' terms, a sick game that would have been really sick to play. Yeah, it would have been great. And so, yes. But yeah, I think they were chasing that crowd. I don't think they wanted to imitate. Given TW has significant problems itself with the original formula, Pharaoh was a flop. Well, I think they're chasing the audience, not necessarily imitate Total War, but try to get more mass appeal for a strategy game, because at least from what I've gotten from a lot of the devs, Hearts of Iron 3 was just too hard for people to get into. And so lots of people would buy it but would barely play it, and then it wouldn't get recommended to other, friends, family, whatever, so that they were hoping for a game that was much more approachable by the general gaming audience. on a genre is part of the problem for Paradox. Why innovate when there's not much of a known competition? Exactly. It's always a long term. Short term, a monopoly can be great because you earn the monopoly either because you're the only one doing it, and then hooray for you. You know, you're the only one making a Franco-Prussian war game. However many people are going to play that. There is a Franco-Prussian expansions here for Strategic Command, but how many people are going to play that? But if you're the only one on the block that's actually making a halfway decent Franco-Prussian war game, well, hey, all the players that want to play it, you're great because you're the only one doing it. Or if it's something big, World War II, and you become a monopoly at an element of it, whether it's a first-person shooter or a grand strategy game or a tactical game, well, you're probably becoming a monopoly because you're doing something so great with it that people love it. Long term, whatever version 2, version 3, version 4, if you're still the monopoly, yeah, other than the computers are getting more powerful, the graphic units are getting, GPUs are getting more powerful, and you're just, instead of just, and you want to sell new versions of the game to the people, because that's literally what I think a lot of these things companies are doing. Computers got better. We can resell to our original customer base instead of just add-on DLCs. We can resell them a new game. That is a significant development to some element of it, graphics or AI programming or whatever. But we're just selling them the same thing over again, so they get sort of lazy. Ardennes Offensive has been great. Oh, good to hear. Good to hear. Obviously I'm influenced by, again, full disclosure here again, Slytherin/Matrix pays me money to play their games on their channel. They don't pay me to play it on mine, but still that can influence me. So they've never paid me to oh, hey, we'll give you money if you play our game on your channel. No, it's always on their channel. But yeah, they still give me money, so that does give me a positive feeling about the company and about the games. So I'm always about specifically recommending. It's one thing if I'm playing the game, you can see the game, how it's going, but just recommending it. But if you like it, very good. Hoi 4 seems to be the most successful Paradox games Steam-wise because it appeals to people who are not really gamers interested in history, but are gamers only, and former numbers being in decline, in my opinion. Yeah. I don't know that what they've done with Hoi 4. Anyway, the conversation is taking place somewhere else. Anyways, okay, don't know. Hello, Holiday Punch. How you doing? That was Deep Space Nine. Okay, I don't know. Where are you getting at? Because I was... Well, there's Ferengi. Oh, well, maybe the Ferengi thing. I don't know. Because I know there's also Deeps there, whatever. But yeah. So yes. So let's get back to this game here. And we will continue here. Let's see. All right. Now we have these artillery. 3 rounds, 4 rounds, and 3 rounds. So, and we have division here. So what we're going to do, we're going to take this unit that's furthest back, and we're going to fire. Okay, yeah, we're going to fire at this division. Now we can see the odds have changed a bit more into our favor. We start here because although all 3 of these artillery pieces can hit here, this one cannot hit up into here. So we start here, which because it has limited fire arc, and this is the next most limited fire arc. Okay, well that can do the most damage, but we're going to see about that. So let's some defensive artillery. Good. Not quite as good as I might have hoped, but now this division is going to step up in here. And hurt them significantly. They're going to retreat back, and these guys are going to come up here and hopefully nope. They can still strike. Okay, these guys I think can swap out here, so we've got massive amounts of shifting units around to shatter the division, and we're just going to leave that hole open. Now, here, okay, we have 2 rounds left there. We have 3 rounds here, so can be useful for defensive artillery. Slightly stronger unit, so I'm going to take a little nick. Now, what we're going to have to do here is swap these two because we want to finish. And we did not finish that division, which will now allow us, I think, to swap these two and finish that division. Yes, finish the division. So we've taken out 2 divisions here along the front line, which is very useful. Okay, now, they struck. We have 2 rounds. Okay, we have 6 rounds here. Okay, it looks like that French division is going to be toast. There we go. Now we're not going to push ahead here. But we're going to leave this sort of open. If they want to feel that they need to move in troops, that'll be good. If not, fine. Maybe they don't have the troops to push in. Okay. What we will do here is turn their flank. Now, we are going to decide to defend from the south here. If we can push up to there. So that's just a detachment. That will get us defense from the north. Now here, okay, these guys can come up to here. Good. Keep from being cut off. And this is why getting some detachments in as much as we can be helpful, because we are expanding our lines. I think this can hold this line here. This is hopefully scaring the AI. Do AIs get scared? Three rounds for artillery. We're going to save up those 3 rounds. Let's reinforce them. Don't do that. Okay, so here, so we've got rail links coming in here. We want to get Epinay, how do you pronounce that? Okay, 9 rounds. Okay, I think Epinay will fall to us. This turn, maybe that. Okay, 4 rounds. Let's big boom. those out. Okay, we'll take one more shot. Oh. Well, shit, depends. I thought I selected that. Damn. Okay, well, the general just made a bad mistake. I really did think I was seeing that I saw that the hex was empty, but I should have used my Air Force in general. Yeah, okay. Bad general, distracted, talking about other things. Okay, now I think we are ready to move up to here. Oh, they don't. I thought I could entrench still. Damn, I made a mistake. General made some other mistakes. Let's look at supply. Not very good up here. So, 3, 2. Okay, I think we will go to here. Pick on them. They can't dig it. That is the angle I want to have. Should still be in supply. No, we got all of the. Okay, we want to move artillery just as far as we can. Oh, well. Hey, ZZ. Good to have you here. Four rounds. Shoot at these Marines. They can come down in here and entrench. They may attack. Cavalry on my artillery, that could be bad. And here, division down there and entrench. Yes, that would be fine. This division down here and entrench this way here. Let's reinforce. Up here, reinforce. Yeah, but I wanted to weaken. I knew they were going to get hit by that, but I wanted to weaken. Oh, actually, shattered. Nice. Okay, good. First. That was not what it planned. Well, we'll just lick our wounds, I think. Alright. Time's moving faster. As interesting, I guess. Is this just your perceiving time is going faster, or somehow you're actually going faster through time? Okay, progress in command and control. Good. The machine isn't ready yet. This was a mistake here. You know that you need a machine to travel through time. You sure you need a machine? You might just want to travel through time in other ways. really does, I think, help break up their attack. Not just, oh, and down a bit. Yeah, good fighters. Let's see. Inconclusive fighter, fight. Inconclusive everything, I would say. More or less. Including bomb. Well, I don't know. I said I'm traveling through time, with or without a machine. I should count playing computer games, but just other people might be doing things like that. Okay, 2 divisions. Where do we want the divisions? Here, where we're really pushing deep in and getting ready to cut that whole northern flank off, at least through land. Do we want to push in here? Now, remember what I said early in this game. Pushing here and pushing over here is how to push on to Paris. And notice with me primarily being pushing up in here and me pushing to getting in and around here has now opened up a thrust towards Paris here and a thrust towards Paris here. So yes, the indirect approach can often be very, very useful. So now we have a lot of forces here, but we also have a lot of English, and there's presumably somebody in the center there. Here, down here. Okay, well, I think here is where, because again, if we can push up to Abbeville and take Le Tripot, so let's put that there, and well, that's an unupgraded division, damn. Okay, yep, I'm gonna say 2 divisions along this, and Hungary, Austro-Hungarians. Okay, we're gonna come out over here, where our Austro-Hungarian forces sort of are. There we are. So now they're all sort of near our Austro-Hungarian commander. We'll probably fly around the sun a couple of times and presto, yes. I'm trying the new big Crusader Kings 3 update. I'm trying the Legend Herald the Wake. Okay. Yeah, well. Okay, so. Well, they didn't come up and attack our gun here or any other place that I was particularly worried about something like that happening. Okay, well, yeah, let me take this force out that's cut off. These are detachments, that's why they're not attacking so well. And bye-bye. You can see here, getting this will open up rail links down to here. So, that'll take a little while, but yes, now we have secured the rail links. Like I say, I think it takes a little while for this to, properly get back into shape to push supplies down it, but having that allows us. Now, again, we do not want to get within 1 hex of Epinal unless we're actually planning on assaulting the base. Because if you get within 1 hex, you get effectively artillery bombard every turn. So we just don't want to have units sitting there getting that hit. So I have we can look here. I have no desire to push into this territory here unless I have no desire to take Epinal here. It's useless to me. Now I do have desires to push down this way towards whatever city this is and push down this railway. So encircling, oh well, maybe pushing down through here it could if this is capable through this rail link here. So if this is weak enough, fine. If not, we're just going to push in around here and then down here. We'll think about some of that. Have you heard of Harold the Wake? No. Or Harold the Wake? No, I have not. Gamer has not heard of something in history. Yes, I know it sounds bizarre to you, but it is the truth. If you want to give me a short description or something, that'd be cool. Okay, now, okay, all these infantry divisions around here are pretty well off. We've got 3 shells and 4 shells. Wow. He was semi-legendary Anglo-Saxon part of the resistance to post-Norman conquest. Okay. I do remember reading about or watching a documentary or whatever, I forget, maybe both even, um, about some resistance that happened, and then the Normans came in and just killed everybody and everything, and it was generations before that part of England really started to get back. That they just came in and just slaughtered everybody. Yeah, the Normans did not play gently. Well, let's fire a couple of artillery rounds at you. Okay, so that's bye-bye. I do think a little bit of time pressure here, so this. Don't think that's a fortress hex. No, they're just fortified in the hex. Okay. They can't dig it, they can't dig it. They could. So let's move in again. There we go. Can't dig it. Oh, you can't even attack. I don't know why that's happening, but okay. Wow. Yeah, it was the end result. Herring of the North, right? Yeah. I think that was. Oh, we have a bot over on Twitch. If Arno wants to squish it, he can. Okay. According to that, there's nothing up there. Okay, so we're riding up there. Packing your artillery with our tanks. Somebody's there. Mm-hmm. There we go. We really got these guys flanked. Now I'm going to continue to work in and around here, but I'm not going to push so hard. I'm going to push until I get resistance. Well, yes, the tanks count as resistance here, so weapon and rank. I would say, because ZZ's got me thinking about the Norman conquest of Britain. I would say that you have the initial two first battles. Harold goes up and fight Harold Hardrada up the last major Viking expedition to try to, conquer England there, and defeats him up at Stamford Bridge, and then races back down to London, picks up a new army, and then battles the Battle of Hastings, and he loses. The talk is that the Anglo-Saxons were maybe going to win that battle until their king falls, and then they fall apart, which is sort of par for the course for the period. So yeah, you have that. But once you get beyond that, you've now lost the last serious ability, shall we say, of the English to organize up anything. They've lost. There is not a bureaucratic state of any real form. There is not a central organizing force of any form at that point. Not that because there's still that army that was exhausted, um, that defeated Harold Hardrada, that other than being exhausted and not able to get down to Hastings in time, is still there and still a pretty big army. And there's still a lot of people that, soldiers that flee from Hastings that are, fine. There's just not really a central organizing figure to organize them up, plus other people from around England, because you're looking at, and this is sort of where I was getting there, is the fjord, sort of a, people's militia, if you will, versus a full-time professional army. That's how I would describe the two. The Normans were the sort of full-time professional army. And so long as you could organize up the people's militia, you can maybe win against that professional army. But once you lose that organizing element, and the figure of being the king is that, then you have the situation of the Normans coming in I'm sure there were other points that they could lose and maybe even did from Hirwald's The Wake. I don't know the campaign. You might have them, being able to lose a smaller battle or two, but most of the time the Normans, not necessarily with numbers, but fighting power, overwhelm at the point of impact, so that they were able to spread across England and establish very rapidly fortified positions, what we sort of call castles. In the early stages, just motte and bailey type wooden structures, earthworks and wooden structures. But they're able to go around, and if there's a local uprising, hold out long enough in their castle for relief forces to get there and slaughter the uprising. And so there isn't the ability, there just is not the ability to go, hey, yeah, on the 21st of next month, everybody everywhere rise up and go after them Normans. And we all do it all at the same time, all in the same day. So there's no relief column to go anywhere because they're all going to be, trapped in their little castles after they're spread out. And we're just going to hold out and starve them out and, try to burn them out and do whatever. But again, no relief because everyone's trapped. There was the inability of that, is technology at the time, communication technology particularly, but that the Normans are able to subjugate England. So the professional versus the militia. The militia can function, but it doesn't necessarily does function. I think my days of this little trap of them coming in and filling it and refilling it over. Okay. These guys are going to come down to here. Oh, there's a lot of rear area units. There we go. Now they're getting a little pressure from this side as well. Oh, we got 10 shells, so we'll get oh. The reason I hit here, and even though I thought we'd have a better hit from this side, was this is a unit that's further out on the flank, and so I'd rather have this unit get weaker in here than this one. But now that we're looking at this being shattered, oh, we want to move the tank in here, I guess. I don't want to get too far out. Effective supplies. Okay. Now, I think I want to roll up this line here. So let's do like that. Let's. Okay, I'm not using my air as effective as I should. So let's move the air to the sure plane. Okay. I also think I'm tired of inching this unit forward. Here, well, you're not able to strategically redeploy from there. I don't know. Let's reinforce you. Why are you going up to that? I don't know. Okay. Moving into detachments just because, again, we're not going to really push on Epinal. Hmm. Oh, okay. No. Okay. Now, next turn, these guys will move in some more. You have to get reinforced. Hopefully get you maxed out. Yes, good. So we can come up and in front. So, keeping some pressure over here on the flank, making them nervous about that. That's not really trying to overstrength, just bring the forces up to strength. Right. Uh-huh. Good, some defensive artillery, break up their attack some. Part of the reason why I keep totally exhausting my artillery, partially just to save it up for big barrages. Okay, fell back, fine. That hurt a little bit. All right. Okay. We know from yes, best. We know from the game perspective that this whole thing, this whole area out here is meaningless. Sure, it provides some MPP to the French, but I don't know that the French are really hurting for MPP. They might be, but instead of putting all of these units that we see here and keeping all these units up here, and I presumably there's some forces in here, but they could easily fall back all of these forces, come in and sort of defend here at this objective. What is it? Epinal, yeah. And, hold back here at Bastag, hold back here at Belfort instead of all along these units along the front. To do so, to hold the front with fewer forces, is that? Yeah, just entrenched. But with fewer forces, but hold it as, well, I would say effectively versus the forces that are facing them. they could do that and then free up other forces to deal with critical sectors, those that are pushing deep into here, those that are pushing towards the ocean. They could do that. We often obviously see this nearly trapped, British Army here. But and you may go, this is a bad AI. And from winning the game. And this could also be the perspective from winning the war too. This game isn't entirely divorced from reality. But, what does Gamer say? Gamer says warfare is a political act. So warfare is politics. Politics is warfare. You cannot separate the two. I get very, very political here, telling people who they should vote for, or whatever, and you can pay attention to me or not, or you can pay attention but disagree, that's fine. I actually like people who don't always agree with me around here, because sure, it's nice to have people that tell you, and mean it, not just to tell you, but that, they agree with you, and that's, good. But I like to hear from divergent voices. I truly do. Makes me think. Thinking is fun. So, but, when I'm streaming over on Slitherine, I don't try to bring in modern politics, like we were talking earlier about woke stuff. But they have, very much, through my career working over there, very much encouraged me to talk about the history and whatnot around the games. And of course, the history around the games is political. So I get political in relation to the game. So if they do have like one Afghan war game, modern, post 9/11 invasion or something like that. So then, I would talk about the politics of the Afghan war then, but not bring up anything modern political, but maybe talk about whether it's U.S. or German or British or French politics around World War II. So I will get political there as it relates directly to the game. But politics is a political act. And politics is perception, right? There's the reality. But if I go break a law right now, am I going to get arrested for breaking the law? Why? If I go drive too fast, or go out and jaywalk, walk across the street where there's, not at the legally designated places. And people do that all the time. No one cares because there's no cars driving on one of the streets out in front of me where I am. But even if I did jaywalk where there's a lot of cars moving around, but I wasn't doing it crazily, but maybe sort of forcing some cars to, not jam on the brakes, but have to stop for me. And there was a police officer in his car. He's probably not going to give me a ticket because he's got better things to do. And I was just trying to get across the street in the middle of a block, and I sort of held up my hand, and they had to stop for me, and maybe I was being a bit rude. But it didn't cause like someone to rear end the other car. It didn't cause anybody anything significant. Just a minor delay in their driving. And the police officer isn't going to get out of his car unless for some odd reason and try to give me a ticket for jaywalking. So I can go out and break the law, and I do. I don't necessarily do just what I describe all the time, but I do walk across the street without in the designated spots often. But even if it was go steal a car, why would I be arrested? Like right now, if I think I vaguely know how to hotwire a car, but if I figure out a little bit more and I walked literally right out of my house, or let's say walked around a block or something, put on just pulled up a hoodie over my face so it's sort of hard to see, smashed a window, reached into a car, opened the door, reached down in a few seconds, hotwired that car, and drove the car away. And I just stole a car. What's going to happen to me? If I was wearing gloves and no one visually watched me walk out of my home and walk the block or two, and so they don't know where I came from. There isn't necessarily cameras watching to investigate. The car is just gone. What's going to happen to me? Driving down the street with a window rolled down, because that's I broke the window out on the side, but no one knows that. Who's going to pull me over? Drive past the police car. Now, if he saw me break into the police car, he would probably arrest me. But what's going to happen to me? I just stole a car. Nothing. Nothing's going to happen to me if I go steal a car. Now, if I leave fingerprints in it and they feel like it, they could dust for them. But trust me, they often don't. Not most police cars aren't running around with fingerprint kits and to dust the car. So if I just go steal a car, nothing's going to happen to me. In reality. Now, if I steal enough cars, I'm eventually going to probably get arrested, because just law of averages. And then why steal a car? Now, if somebody reports it stolen and I'm driving it around, and here they do have, at least at a few places around the highways, I don't know how often, they do have things that do spot license plates and will report that, especially if you're looking, and keeps track of license plates that drive down the highways. And so if I was steal a car, and somebody 20 minutes later realizes the car is stolen and reports stolen car, and I'm driving down the highway and they get an alert, somebody's the automated system spotted a stolen car driving down the highway, and there's a highway patrolman gets a little alert, and they come after me and pull me over, and they got me. And this is why I go with perception. Yeah, if I again steal a car and drive it long enough, if I just drive it 6 blocks to some place that will like pull out the catalytic converter, some not so honest mechanical shop, maybe pull out 1 or 2 other components that they know they can resell quickly, easily, and then I go take that car and drive it 6 blocks somewhere else, and then just park it and walk away from it. None of us left any fingerprints. I was hard to recognize person doing it. I've just stolen a car. Why would I steal a car? Well, I've just stolen a car, stole the catalytic converter, at some convenient place, instead of me going underneath it and trying to steal it that way. You go underneath the thing. Yeah. I mean, what's stopping me or anybody in society from just going and doing this? Perception. Okay. Because if everybody got up and they had a few minor tools, got up in the morning and wanted to go to work, and just walked out and smashed in windows and reached in and opened triggered the lock to unlock the door and get in, and then trigger whatever override system. And if you're talking modern electronic stuff, cars, systems, well, there's all kinds of tools that allow you to defeat their electronic locks. I don't even have to smash anything open, and you just drive away in a car. And if 10,000 people do that in like a greater LA area, that's not even a percent. That's not even what 10,000 cars in one morning heading to work is not even 1%, I'm sure, of the cars on the highway in the morning in the LA area. But if 10,000 people were to go do that tomorrow, or Monday morning or whatever, the police have no ability to stop even 10% of those people, 1,000 cars, and find them and trigger them and stop them. So what is, stopping people from just stealing cars because hey, it's just right out here. It's right out in front of my home. Just walk in and steal it. Um, or something. It's convenient. Um, is perception. Okay, so politics and why we follow these rules are perception. Is the perception that we're going to get in trouble. It's the perception that we'll go to prison. And so, I mean, this is part of the reason why it's bad to bring in people from other perceptions, other worlds, because one, they may not, if they're from some places, may not realize how many cameras there are around, or realize that if they drive down the highway or certain intersections, that there are computers that are watching the license plates and will ding when they've got a stolen car there and send out the description to nearby police, and they'll triangulate on it. But again, if enough people do that, well, the police just can't handle it. Right. And so again, I know we're still talking about this game is why do they have this line up here? What are they really protecting when they could move all of these French units here, or had been moving them out to, come down here? Because look, yeah, I mean, we're only moving so fast. And okay, we've got 7 artillery shells we could start firing here. I could easily have moved up, been a little bit more proactive, and moved up some of my air corps and take out Clermont, um, the force there, and I'm charging towards Paris. And so why isn't the AI? If the AI was smart, it would be doing these things. Well, at some point now, I mean, you got this tank unit here. What's it going to do? It's holding this sector here, where down here somewhere it could hold really well. But yeah, by now, at least some of this, but maybe they should be back at this line here and falling back here. Here, okay, they got the swamps and they're holding here, so they're doing okay-ish, sorta, but they could easily be making much better decisions at this point than trying to hold out. Um, obviously they got that surrounded. Should I try to assault there? Well, that's actually... Let's... We're gonna swap these out because these are divisions, so we're gonna attack there. There we go, 1 division down. No, we're not going to do that, even if we could. And so, which that might have been a mistake, because now that unit goes back into the pool and can be rebuilt, where if it was just sat there doing nothing really, it might have been better, but I don't know. There can be arguments over whether that move was a smart move or not. But the perception that if Belfort, or if Epinal falls, or if whatever the hell is out here, Saint Die des Volges, if they're still holding out here, they're still holding out stuff on the borders, right? But if they fall back, well, I guess we can't scroll down, but if they fall back to some sort of line back here, militarily, production, I mean, there might be some mines or whatever, but the Americans are in the war, so there's enough resources showing up in French forces. So if they were to fall back to some line like back here, they might, or likely, free up a lot of forces and recreate a solid front line here, and and be able to move forces to more critical pockets, more critical lines of holding, more whatever. But politically, not because there's, again, my sort of theme of the leadership. I don't know, hidebound is maybe one of the terms, but is so ingrained in its thinking patterns that it can't think we must have victory. We can't just, have a stalemate that's a negotiated settlement. It's partially it's probably some of that. They can only see what they can see, even if there's something else right in front of their face. They can't see it. And the other is the political perception. And politics does affect the troops, because there was the particularly French mutiny during the war of their troops. That if we're losing, why die? Even in World War I, especially in the West, there really wasn't, at least in my understanding of it, a perception that if we lose, I'm going to die. Just by losing. This isn't, some total extermination war that maybe fought on the East, but even there, so this French soldier depicted here, let's say his home is over here. This is the old German border. His home is over here. And if the war is over, he may even feel very much like he has two choices. He could, the war is over. Okay. Taking off his uniform. He's just, a draftee, a national serviceman, not a career soldier. The war is over. He's not been taken prisoner. I mean, he's just, still in a French unit. He's being demobilized. He can go find a new home, whether it's Paris or some other city, work in some other factory, or he could go home and live under German occupation. Might not be pleasant, but it might just be, well, this is where my family's been for, 500 years, so I'm moving home. And maybe the next war in 20 or 30 years, the borders will change back. So this isn't seen as necessarily by a lot of these people, especially the Americans who, their homes are safe and on the other side of the world. Why die if you're going to lose? For what? If you're going to lose. And this was, there was the sort of, I don't know how serious the thought was, but the idea of sending out the German high seas fleet on some sort of death ride that gets sort of like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. Because, what, for the honor of the Kaiser, for the honor of Germany, we're going to go out and, and it may be still a very magnificent, up-to-date technology fleet that could fight very well. And if it fights, even if it somehow encounters the Allied fleets piecemeal, small group by small group, be very victorious. And it may even go out and, sink a lot more of enemy ships than their ships in some big grand battle. It may not be a, we're all going to die, but, so you may get them, coming around and sink a bunch of that the French and the British and whatever Americans that are hanging out at that point may turn around and go home. I mean, sink half the German fleet is sunk, but maybe half of the British fleet is sunk, and there's no point in battling more today because Germany's exhausted and is about done. So retreat. And so maybe even half the big fleet would come home with a, victory banner hanging from its mastheads or whatever. And yeah, but for what point? How is it going to change the post-war outcome of this war? Again, there's other more existential wars of elimination of total conquest that may be different in the past or in the future from this war. So you have that political perception that if it becomes apparent, not just to the, civilian population into the rear, but into the soldiers, that the war is lost, whether it is or it isn't lost in a military sense, meaning, as I'm hypothesizing, an effective withdrawal to an effective new defense line that gets entrenched, that the German forces has to start all over again with pushing through it. And manpower wise, industrial wise, they can't keep doing this. They can do it for a while, but they can't keep, if there's a new defensive line set up back in here, and it's rock solid for, um, units put in here, and they got to break through it all over again because they withdrew the forces, and it's now a shorter battlefront. You've saved the situation, but if it's a solid battlefront that's brittle in that any sort of attack, they're going to flee, or however you want to describe it, because they think they're losing or the war is lost, even though they've, whole new trench lines. Why die because we're going to lose the war? So, yeah, it's that. Yeah, the salient close to Paris looks like the AI not doing its job. Well, yes, but what I'm saying is does this also look like the politician, the political leadership, telling the military that if you don't hold whatever objectives, that they believe that the populace, not just the politicians, but the populace will believe that the war is lost. So, there is in this scenario that if you take enough of the national objectives, you can get a marginal victory. I don't know exactly what the number is and which ones count to how much, but without taking Paris, meaning, and it's not necessarily a marginal victory here in this scenario, would equate to German victory in World War I, but it would be a victory for Ludendorff's offensive, in that it did not win the war for Germany, but it did seriously push the Allies back and destroy a lot of their forces. Well, I think that'll probably be it for today. I want to thank ZZ, of course, Elizabeth, Arno, von Schweinhund, MMDB, if you're still around. Don't know who else has been hanging out with me today. Oh, Jamnuska, but I think he's left. Just scrolling back up there. So thanks everyone for hanging out with me. I'm still very much processing World War One. I know this isn't getting great views. I mean, we're getting a few hundred people coming in and checking out the stream, but not a huge number watching. But like I say, I'm processing World War One and my thoughts around it while playing here and talking with you guys. So thanks so much. I will be back tomorrow playing War Thunder. Don't know if Arno will feel up to playing with us. I hope he does someday soon. I'm not sure next Saturday if I'll be streaming or not. I may be driving back to Arizona, but I'm not sure on that. It's far from sure. I'm just sort of thinking about it, maybe, that it would be a good day to do so. So, yes, MMDB is still here. Very good. So, yes. So, yeah, may not be back Saturday, but next Saturday. But, yeah, coming up. But tomorrow, definitely be here for War Thunder. So, yes. Hello, Norbert. How you doing? Good to have you here. Good night, everyone, or good